neighbor. How's it going? I hope it's going well. Today is June 21st, 2018. So today I wanted to do something kind of fun because I really like this day of the year. June 21st, anywhere between the 20th and 22nd, typically, is a thing that happens twice a year in the Northern Hemisphere, or I guess both sides, and it's called the Summer Solstice. And the Summer Solstice is really cool because for a couple reasons. Culturally, all over the world, there's lots of traditions to celebrate this day of the year. So I want to talk about some of those. And scientifically, it's very significant for humans, for the planet, for humans. So let's go and we'll dive right into it. The summer solstice occurs twice a year. And what happens is the Earth's semi-axis inclines more towards the sun than it did the other half of the year. It occurs twice with our planet. And when the southern hemisphere is tilted more towards the sun, which begins around December 20th, December 23rd each year, that's the summer season. So basically for the northern and southern hemisphere, it signifies the change in the season. So we get that twice a year on our planet, but that doesn't happen everywhere for every planet. Some planets it happens tens of years, 15s of years, or that's not even a phrase, but you get the point. So in New York City today, we had a long day. We have I think it's 15 hours and 6 minutes of daylight today. So the sun rose at 5:25 this morning, and it will set tonight at 8:31. That's a long day. And I really like this day of the year because I think there's like a cool vibe in the air. It's the scientific start of summer. Our fake work summer happened, Memorial Day weekend. So it's official summer now. Everyone give each other a high five. Woo! So, and the word solstice, which I really liked, comes from when the sun stands still because it's the longest day of the year, which I thought was pretty cool. I didn't really know that. And this usually means that we're moving into, so after today and tomorrow, the days will start getting shorter until the winter solstice, which is the darkest day of the year, which is around the 20th to 23rd. So, and that usually means that now we're going to start moving into the hot part of the summer. Today's not the hottest part of the summer. It's going to be about 2 or 3 weeks away, and that's because we're cooking. We're cooking over here in the northern hemisphere. And there's a couple things that happened today. One thing, if you're living way up north there by the Arctic Circle, you're ready for 24 hours of sunlight. So you ain't going to sleep today or tonight. Or is it night or day if you don't have the light to tell you what to do? I don't know. We'll have to revisit that one. So around the world, culturally, if you know me, I like to talk about cultures around the world and history and things like that. It's a fun thing for me. So it's interesting. Summer solstice is typically a pagan holiday throughout the histories of the world and histories of the people. It's typically a pagan holiday with a lot of parties all over the world in different cultures, even if they're not connected or some of them are connected. There's a lot of people around the world who have a tradition of doing something cool and having a good time and usually imbibing. The biggest gathering typically in the world that we know of is in Stonehenge in England. And last year in 2017, around 13,000 people gathered around this, Stonehenge, the ancient structure, to celebrate the longest day of the year. And usually that goes hand in hand with partying. In Sweden, Sweden is usually dark most of the year, but it's a big tradition in Sweden. And what they do is on the longest day of the year, it's typically they burn a bonfire all day. And I think they actually, if I'm right, the largest bonfire ever made was somewhere in Sweden on the summer solstice a few years back. So I thought that's pretty cool. And this was an interesting part, I think, is that both cultures and science, this day is a significant day for fertility. So in Sweden, there's actually a scientist who writes, or sorry, ethnologist, I guess scientist, Jan Ovid Schwan. I think I said it right. And statistically speaking, in Sweden, there's a lot of birthdays 9 months to the day after the summer solstice. So you know what that means. And typically they have a lot of drinking and partying. I mean, they're really far north up there, so they're probably getting a lot of daylight today. They're going to sleep. And in Sweden, they do a celebration which falls on the 21st, and it's usually dancing around a maypole, which is actually like a phallic symbol a little bit. So everyone's running around the maypole, and generally a lot of eating heron, drinking vodka, and drinking is a very typical midsummer tradition. There are historical pictures of people drinking to the point where they can't do anything anymore. So that's definitely subsequent part of that baby boom there. But even without booze, it's apparently a very romantic ritual. So I thought this was kind of. Here's one that I thought was interesting, is that in Sweden there's unmarried girls, and the tradition is to say that if they were to eat something salty during the midsummer, which is today, and collect different kinds of flowers and put it under their bed when they slept, they would dream of their future husbands. So it's kind of cool to have this, this tradition of love, fertility, and then it's kind of like the metaphysical world of dreaming about your future, which I thought was pretty cool. And before we go into the next example here, I think it's, in science with plants and photosynthesis, there's a lot of plants. It's significant for harvest, all around the world, for the pagans, the Swedes, whoever. It's because in the early spring, there's a lot of plants who grow. They go up to the sun. They go through their life cycle, and then once the day gets as long as it does, the longest day of the year, and starts a day or two later, it starts getting smaller and smaller. Less and less light. It activates the seeds and fruiting bodies of these plants who use photosynthesis. So I think it's an interesting correlation between humans having fertility and types of like marriage ceremonies, and then the plant world also doing it at the same time. So I thought that was really interesting. So, and that's, lots of plants who, if you're a gardener now, you're going to start seeing tomatoes, buds, seeds, whatever, start getting bigger and bigger until the fall when you can harvest them. In Greece, I thought it was pretty cool that they had a very similar dreaming ceremony as the Swedes do. It's something called Kildanos. I hope I said it right. And then they basically would gather local virgins in the area, and they would gather water from the sea. And all the village's unmarried women would place personal belongings in a pot and leave it under a fig tree overnight. Where in the folklore, where they were saying that the magic, some sort of prophetic powers of the day, and then those girls would dream of their future husbands. So I thought it was kind of interesting that there was a correlation between other societies that did that. And so then the next day, the women of the village would gather and put their objects, reciting like a rhythmic couplets, kind of like chants and things like that. And this is supposed to be some sort of like future predicting of your romantic fortune for the owners of these objects. And then these, and apparently a lot of these rhymes and songs were dirty ones. So the older women would say dirty, funny little rhymes and stuff. And it's something, it's back in the day, if you're an agrarian culture or things like that, it's a day to bring everybody together. And so that obviously has something to do with it. And it's a good time to meet people and things like that. And in Eastern Europe, in Eastern cultures, there's another day, and it's believed that the night was called Kupala, And it was time for it was a day for people to fall in love. And those celebrating would be happy and prosperous through the year. So if you met someone on this day, it was a good sign for the future. And this is, Eastern Europe, Poland, things like that. And basically, I thought there was a couple interesting traditions they had, is that the young unmarried women would make these little floral leaves and wreaths, like you put them on your head and things like that. And they would be upstream in a river, and they would throw them in the river, and then the young unmarried men in the culture would go be on downstream. And the whole thing is that if you caught someone's thing, you'd go find that person and you go, talk to them, And, bonfires are a big tradition. I usually like to go camping on this day. Couldn't really do that this year, but I went camping last week. So the final ceremony was that you would go find that person and whatever. And then later in the night during the bonfire, there's a bonfire that everyone's hanging around, and the couples would hold hands and jump over the bonfire. And if you didn't let go, that was supposed to be a good omen. And then apparently men earlier in the evening would also jump over as many times or do like cool things over the fire to kind of show off. So, it's interesting. So, obviously as Catholicism and sorts of other religions integrated kind of more, Druid-esque or like natural nature-based religions, there's, they kind of altered these pagan holidays to go with more Christian-esque stuff. And like we said, Stonehenge is an area where it's all lined up for this perfect event that happens during the summer solstice. And, we're broadcasting here from New York, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, New Jersey. I just wanted to mention, we have our own little Stonehenge thing where we worship the sun. It doesn't happen on this perfect day that happens with the whole earth, but we have a day we call Manhattanhenge. It happened on May 29th at 8:13 p.m. and it happens the next day again at 8:12 p.m. on May 30th. But don't you worry, there's another day that it happens again on Thursday, July 12th at 8:20 and Friday, July 13th at 8:21. There's got to be some sort of omen there. July 13th, 8 o'clock, Manhattanhenge. And I like this. We talk about real estate stuff here. We talk about just lots of things in general. But that's, it's an integration of people and the structures they make coming together and celebrating against the architecture that they built. It's kind of like the bridge between the natural world, the human world that we kind of architect on our own. And it's a great thing. So 200 years ago, the architects who created the plan for modern Manhattan decided to build it using a grid system. And it runs north to south, east to west, as you know. And that, I don't think it was intentional, but it happened. So it's a perfect bullseye. I was reading that there was cops trying to move people away from Manhattanhenge because it was making even more traffic that we don't need. And this typically takes place in Midtown. So get yourself ready. And some of the best places to watch are 42nd Street, 57th Street, 34th Street, 23rd, and 14th. So it goes all the way down this Midtown and downtown because the park was there. Those are the best places to go see it. So if you want to see it. But today, have a good time. Go out there and enjoy yourself with our 15 plus hours of sunlight today. And let me see if there's anything else we wanted to talk about here. We talked about hot water. We talked about the name. Talked about Stonehenge. I think that's pretty much... Oh, and then ancient Chinese culture. This is the day. I thought this was kind of cool. The yin yang has always been a big symbol in culture, even in Eastern cultures and Western cultures. But this is the day where you celebrated the yin yang symbol, and I thought that was kind of cool because you're in perfect. It's supposed to be it's the other side of the yin and the yang, where you have the longest day. So the powers of the yin and yang waxed and waned in reverse proportion to each other, and at the solstice, the influence of the yang was the highest. In Alaska, it's going to be really bright all day, so they make a midnight baseball game. And in another thing that's interesting, I would always think that if it was me, I would think that we'd be closer to the sun. It just seems that way, but apparently it's actually the Earth is actually farthest from the sun during the year, during the solstice. And then also in ancient Greece, which I thought was interesting, is that it was kind of the day, I guess, where everyone's kind of, I guess it kind of makes sense because you have all these festivals where everyone's getting together. It was actually the day where they had a festival called Cronia, which honored Cronus, the god of agriculture. Funny that it happens that way. It coincides with the solstice. Do you think it was planned? Probably not. Just kidding. And this was a day where slaves and free people had equal rights to participate in a public gathering in a society, which is pretty cool. And lastly, in Rome, midsummer coincided with Vestalia, which honored Vesta, the Roman goddess who guarded virginity and was considered the patron saint of the domestic sphere, so the house. And on the first day of this festival, married women were allowed to enter the temple of the Vestal Virgins, which they were barred from the rest of the year. So I think it was pretty cool that this day, all throughout human history, is really significant. I mean, we still have those celebrations here, but I want to know what you're doing today for your summer solstice. So that's all we got for today. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciated it. I'm actually going to be going on a little boat trip to celebrate this from Baltimore to New York this weekend. We're going to go sailing with my good friend Ian. So next week, maybe we'll make a video about that, or I'll do a podcast about that. But it'll be interesting. It'll be fun. And just, as always, I'm a New York City real estate person. If you are looking for a home or have a friend who is, give me a call if they want some excellent professional advice, or if they just have a question. I'd love to help you out. That's what I do for my work. And then this is more of a fun thing. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. And I hope to hear from you soon. Have a good day. Bye.